and thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman. Here's what we're looking at.
Our communities are not a war zone.
Border Patrol boss Gregory Bovino joins immigration raids in the Little Village as community members push back. A live report from the city's west side. And from public transit funding to energy costs, what will state lawmakers address during the fall veto session? First off tonight, it has been a chaotic day for the Little Village community and nearby Cicero. Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino and multiple agents were seen conducting immigration raids there this morning. Local officials say at least 7 people were detained by federal immigration agents. Alderman Michael Rodriguez says among those taken into custody were U.S. citizens, including 2 of his staff members. Our Joanna Hernandez joins us now from Little Village. Joanna, what's the latest there?
Brandis, I have to say that there's fear in this community tonight, but also a call to stand against federal immigration agents. Now, there was a heavy presence of enforcement agents here today, led by, like you mentioned, the head of U.S. Border Patrol, Gregory Bovino. You're looking at some of the video captured today by community members as agents hit multiple locations across Little Village and Cicero today. We spoke with Basatar Enriquez from the Little Village Community Council, who was on the scene taking calls from residents today.
Street vendors, people going to the laundromat, people were just standing, waiting for the bus. So these people are not criminals. They're just people here in Little Village. They are looking for a better life, and we've seen that they did this to intimidate us, and this is so un-American. This is not what America looks like.
Local elected officials, along with organizations and community leaders, gathered in front of a laundromat for a news conference on 31st and Pulaski. This location was reportedly where ICE agents attempted to enter but were denied access. The speakers addressed the ongoing chaos, accusing federal agents of operating unlawfully and disregarding people's constitutional rights. According to local officials, ICE operations began around 9 a.m. today across the area. They reported that a resident from Cicero was arrested while on her way to the doctor, and a parent was taken from Little Village. Additionally, a worker outside a restaurant was also apprehended and detained. Now, Alderman Mike Rodriguez mentioned that 2 of his staff members were also taken, both U.S. citizens, one of whom serves as an elected police commissioner for the 10th District.
It's with this unity that I come here and demand that my staff be returned to me, that my staff and my neighbors be returned to my community. This isn't justice. This isn't public safety. This is fear-mongering.
They see us and they try to villainize us. They're taking duly elected officials of this city and of this state, trampling over our constitutional right to protest, to protect our communities, because guess what? The law enforcement that they claim to say that they're providing is all BS.
And Brandon, a spokesperson with ICE tells us they did not conduct any operations in Little Village today. We reached out to Border Patrol, but they did not immediately respond to our request. Reporting from Little Village, I send it back to you.
Joanna, thank you. Up next, how the state is looking to crack down on federal agents swapping out license plates.
Reflecting the people and perspectives that make up our communities. This story is part of Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices.
In other news tonight, National Guard troops are still barred from being deployed in Illinois, at least for the time being. That's after a hearing today between the Trump administration and the state of Illinois. During that phone hearing, a federal judge approved the extended stay, with all parties aware that the Supreme Court could upend the agreement at any time with its own ruling. U.S. District Judge April Perry issued the initial temporary restraining order, or TRO, earlier this month, just before several hundred Texas and Illinois National Guard troops could enter the city. The Trump administration has asked the Supreme Court to issue an emergency order. The extended TRO lasts through November 24th. For the latest on this story, check out our website. Federal immigration agents are now facing scrutiny from Illinois Secretary of State's office.
You may have seen this video recently on social media. It shows an ICE agent confronting someone filming a vehicle and saying,
"You can record all you want."
I am.
Okay, so he goes on to say, the secretary goes on to say that he has a problem with that, and the problem being that it is illegal. Secretary of State Alexi Janulius' office says swapping or altering license plates on any vehicle registered in the state of Illinois is strictly prohibited. In response, he's created a plate watch hotline and is asking the public to report instances of license plate tampering, the penalty for which may include fines and potential jail time. Some elected officials are calling on ICE to release a man detained over the weekend as his teenage daughter fights an aggressive form of cancer. Her mother spoke from her bedside via video feed during a news conference this morning.
I need his support. And yesterday, my daughter had a breakdown. She was crying for hours. She wasn't feeling well. And on top of that, she was just telling me how much she misses her dad. And she's like, "Mom, I know that I should be calm because cancer."
Congresswoman Delia Ramirez is among the community members who say 40-year-old Ruben Torres Maldonado has been in the country since 2003 and is the father of 2 children, including 16-year-old Ophelia, who's being treated for a rare form of metastatic cancer. A GoFundMe page to cover legal fees posts this video that you're seeing of the family and says Maldonado was leaving the Home Depot in Niles when he was detained. He's been held at the Broadview ICE facility since Saturday. An immigration hearing is scheduled for tomorrow. For more on the legislation that Congresswoman Ramirez is planning, please visit our website. Up next, will state lawmakers take action on rising insurance rates? That and more on the veto session in Springfield right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the Alexandra and John Nichols family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
Illinois lawmakers are headed back to Springfield next week to finish out their fall veto session. On the agenda, funding public transportation, regulating hemp sales, and managing energy reform, just to name a few. Meanwhile, the Trump administration continues its aggressive push for immigration enforcement and National Guard troops in the Chicago area. Joining us now are State Representative Cam Buckner of the 26th District, which includes Bronzeville, Hyde Park, and the South Loop. State Senator Karina Villa of the 25th District, which includes North Aurora, West Chicago, and Bartlett. State Senator Sue Rezin, the deputy Republican leader who represents the 38th District, containing Putnam, LaSalle, and Kendall counties. And State Representative Brad Stevens of the 20th District, which includes Rosemont, Norridge, and Schiller Park. Thanks to all of you for being here. I know there's a lot going on. Senator Villa, I want to start with you because you have been vocally opposed to the presence of immigration officials and agents in the area. Obviously, you just heard us spend a lot of time talking about it. What can you do? What are you working on as a state lawmaker?
We have many pieces of legislation that we're working on to finalize, specifically how we can keep ICE out of places like higher education institutions, protocol for what happens if they show up to hospitals like we've seen happen already with Jessie Fuentes, our alderwoman, other issues like the courthouses that we have judges reaching out to us saying this has to stop, and we already see some judges saying that that's not allowed. So we're taking a deep look at all of these different issues and ways that we can stop that from happening in the state of Illinois.
Give me a sense of how, because I think for some folks there's confusion about how any state law would be able to prevent, for example, an ICE agent from entering a courthouse because federal law supersedes state, typically. Give me a sense of how that might work.
It's about protocols and procedures that need to be put in place if they were to show up, and the warrants that would need to be present in order for them to continue to carry out what they're doing, and not just being able to enter these different places with fear-mongering the people in those places, like our students who are pursuing the American dream of obtaining a higher education.
Okay, and obviously we're looking at some of that video of what we've been seeing over the last few weeks. Senator Rezin, what do you think? Are the tactics that we've been seeing from ICE agents necessary?
Well, you know, I would say this is the first time that I've seen the video. However, let's talk about what we are seeing that's coming over the border, which I saw in my district. So this is a little bit outside of my district. I'm in the rural area, but I am on the Interstate 80 and 55 corridor. We have a lot of drugs that have come over the border since then. So, I mean, where's the outrage for the fentanyl deaths that we have seen since the border's been open in the last several years under the last administration? 300 deaths a day, over 1 million people dying from fentanyl. These are drugs that are being brought across the border, along with criminals or human trafficking and trafficking children. So we have to talk about the crime that goes along with it, too. Unfortunately, when the borders were open, and several years ago, the governor passed the Trust Act, which really ties the hands of local and state law enforcement to work with ICE officials to go after the criminals who are here. We don't hear much about those stories, but I can tell you about one in particular in Grundy County, where our Grundy County sheriff pulled over a car that had 3 kilos of fentanyl. That's enough fentanyl to kill half of Chicago. So clearly, by having the open borders and having this crisis here, many of the people who did come over came to Illinois because we are a sanctuary city. We need to put something in place that makes sense. My last comment would be the governor has said, is on record, his staff is saying that he hasn't spoken with the president since 2020, 6 years. Why aren't you sitting at the table with the president, having a conversation about what we can do to make our communities safer?
I love the fact that Senator Rezin brought up the fact that it was a sheriff who pulled over that vehicle and arrested the person who had the drugs in the car. Our state police and our sheriffs are doing what they need to. We don't need ICE here. We don't need ICE terrorizing our streets and claiming to be going after the criminals. Our sheriff and our state's police and our local police are doing their job.
Well, I'd like to make a comment, too, because the 2 people that were arrested were here illegally and one fled. So we finally got this person. He was underage. He fled to California, and we did bring him back. So, I mean, it is a challenge for law enforcement not to be able to work with ICE.
Okay, so your colleague, all of your colleagues, Representative Han Nguyen, said that yesterday he was stopped at gunpoint by ICE agents in Albany Park while he was informing residents of their presence. He was also following the agents, as he says in that video that he shared. And Senator V, I know that you've done that as well, to let folks know that there are ICE agents in the area. ICE agents, though, have said that that is hindering their work, that is, it's chasing them. And I think that's what one of the agents said to Representative Nguyen in that video, is stop following me or stop chasing us. Is that the right tactic for you all to be using?
The history of this country has shown that people come to the streets and they use their voice when things are happening that are not appropriate, that we need to shed light upon. Right now, everyday people should be shedding light on what is happening by going out and recording with their phones, by being at a safe distance, and by questioning what is happening with these masked individuals coming and picking up U.S. citizens. U.S. citizens are getting arrested. People are getting tear gas. The press is getting arrested. This is an alarming time in our nation's history, and it is time for us to stand up, stand together. People like Representative Han Nguyen, myself, and others who are going out into the streets to record these horrific instances. It's exactly what we need to be doing.
All right, I want to get our representatives in this conversation as well, because today a judge approved the extension of the pause on the National Guard deployment into Chicago as the administration. We're all waiting, of course, for an intervention from the Supreme Court. Representative Stevens, what if the court should side with the president?
Well, I think we can all agree that the hardened criminals need to be taken care of and taken off the streets, and let's worry about the bad guys. I think some of this stuff is a little bit over the top.
Representative Buckner, same question.
I'll say this: what we've seen with the National Guard going into cities like Chicago, It's creating a tinderbox. It's creating a lot of friction that many of us are scared is going to blow up in a very non-productive way. What we know is that no matter where you are on the spectrum, Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, you've got to agree that militarization of our city streets is not the right way to go. My hope is that we can get to a point where we can have a conversation about how we move forward because this is not working.
What are you hearing from your constituents?
They're scared. They're nervous. I've had a number of run-ins with both the National Guard and ICE in my community, specifically in Bronzeville and South Shore, where residents are petrified. And so the terroristic elements of this, where everyday folks who live in Chicago are scared to go outside. They're scared when they hear a knock on the door. This is not the way we should be living.
Representative Stevens, what are you hearing from your constituents?
I really haven't heard a lot. You know, I also represent a part of the city of Chicago where there's a lot of law enforcement officers live, but I have not heard much.
Let's shift to transit. Chicago area transit agencies are facing a $230 million budget fall at the start of 2026. It is expected to grow to $789 million in 2027. An effort to create new transit funding and reform the agencies failed to advance in the spring session. Representative Stevens, I'm going to come back to you because I know public transportation is a top priority for you. What needs to happen next week for this bill to be passed? Will it happen next week?
Well, I definitely think it needs to happen next week. I think we need to put the governance piece in place. I think we need to find some sort of revenue, whether it's a myriad of the 20 or so different items that CMAP has put on the table for us to look at. I think we need to get through the next 2 years at least with a funding mechanism and let the board or boards get in place, be put in place, and be able to do their job in finding the way how we can all work together in making sure that transit is clean, safe, and on time and reliable.
Representative Buckner, you've gotten some pushback on some of the revenue streams under consideration, such as a delivery fee for online orders. Where will you find the revenue?
Well, listen, part of this process is that we want to do it in public. We want to do it on purpose, right? This is, once again, sunlight and scrutiny. And so we wanted to put these ideas out to hear from people, from our membership, but also from constituents around the state about what was important to them, what kind of revenue package they could get behind. And we have had those conversations in full and plain view. And so I'm super confident that in the next few days, we'll be able to find the right mix of revenue, whether that is some delivery fee, whether that is some other things like a large ticket surcharge, to make sure that we're not being regressive and putting this on the backs of the people who need this system the most.
Brad Stevens, will the transit bill include downstate counties?
My hope is that there is some revenue that flows to the downstate transit systems. I mean, this is a statewide issue here. This is not suburbs versus the city. This is not anything like that. We all need to work cohesively to find the solution to make sure that there's a good, reliable transit system throughout the state.
Senator Rezin, your thoughts on this bill?
Well, I would say it's a heavier lift. I am considered a downstate legislator that really does not have access to the transit that's being talked about. I have several concerns that we'll lay out there. Obviously, a delivery tax is a tax on everyone in the entire state, and the money goes to Chicago. That's at least, if it's not, that's how our constituents view that tax. Not to mention, it's also a new tax. Anytime we add new taxes, whether it's small or not, you're opening the door to increase that tax over years. In the past, when the Capitol bill was passed, the Capitol bill was passed to create money for infrastructure updates, roads and bridges, not only for Chicago or the suburbs, but downstate as well. In the past 7 years, there has been about $1.3 billion that's been used for operating funds for the Chicago transit in general, the different transit in the Chicago and suburbs. So we want to make sure that money from the Capitol bill from now on stays in the Capitol bill and is not used for operation expenses, because those funds were never meant for operational expenses for these entities.
Okay, so let's get to energy and climate change legislation. The energy bill, House Bill 4116, is currently in committee in the House. It seeks to put requirements on energy efficiency, allow for new nuclear reactors, tighten labor standards in the solar industry, and incentivize battery storage. Senator Rezin, I know that you serve as the co-chair of the task force for energy supply, but you don't support this specific bill. What are your issues with it?
Yeah, I mean, we're having this conversation essentially because in the past several years, we've seen the build out of the AI economy with AI and quantum computing. Data centers require a tremendous amount of power. And that's why we're having this conversation. So the conversation around energy has really drastically changed because the demand for energy, it is right now, the gold rush is in energy, not only in the state of Illinois, but across the country. So how do we produce and make sure that we have enough capacity to power up the data centers and the rest of the economy? And what does that look like? Currently, this bill, I'm glad to see that lifting the moratorium on building out large-scale nuclear is in the bill. It's a bill that I've had forever. I've been an advocate for nuclear because all states are looking at nuclear as possibly part of their capacity for their energy. But also the problems within the bill is it takes the ability for us to make a decision in our energy policy and transfers it to an unelected body. The ICC is made up of 5 people that are appointed by the governor. And historically, these people have been from the environmental groups that are making decisions, if the bill passes, about what our energy portfolio looks like. In the past, they haven't supported nuclear. They do not support natural gas. It's an all-above approach for energy, regardless of what it is, to make sure that we have enough demand. Demand for data centers will double by the year in 2030. So this is very real. We want to make sure we don't have brownouts in the near future.
Then there's homeowners insurance. Back in August, State Farm announced that it was raising the Illinois homeowner insurance rates by an average of 27%, citing inflation and severe weather. Senator Villa, Governor Pritzker has called for more home insurance regulations, but some insurance businesses, they're saying that is government overreach. What would you do? What would you all be able to do without risking overregulation?
First and foremost, I need to see what the bottom dollar is of what they're making, these insurance companies. How much are they bringing home? How much are their CEOs bringing home when they're talking about increasing the rates at a time right now that homeowners are struggling so much to make ends meet? If there's a way to hold these companies accountable, then I think that we need to take a serious look at it, because our homeowners in Illinois can't continue to bear these burdens with rate increases with homeowners insurance.
Representative Stevens, are you hearing from constituents on this issue?
Well, I'm a State Farm client as well, so yes, I am.
Aren't we all a client of one of them?
Yes. Well, here, nobody wants to pay more for anything today, and I think that we've got to be cautious with the government oversight. Oftentimes, we see that government oversight doesn't do well for the taxpayers.
Okay, so you're resistant to more oversight, more regulation.
I'm all ears.
All ears. So Governor Pritzker has also been pushing for hemp regulation for months now. Cannabis and hemp, they derive from the same plant, of course. Cannabis has more THC, hemp has less. Of course, THC is the stuff that gives you the high. Representative Buckner, do you think hemp should be, speaking of government regulation, should there be more regulation for hemp?
Yeah, we have to deal with this because we know what's happening with intoxicating hemp across this country, but specifically in Illinois, is that young people are getting a hold of it. It's doing bad things to them physically and from a health perspective. And so we have to get a hold of what's happening here. What I will say is there has to be also a way to balance this. What you're hearing is that a lot of minority folks who don't feel like they have an actual lane into the legal cannabis space are in the hemp space. And they want to be a part of the commerce and economic development in that space as well, right? And so we've got to find a way to balance this, to land this plane so that we are keeping young people safe, but we're also not shutting down businesses and giving people a chance to operate.
1 minute left. Will the Bears stay in Chicago? So you filed a bill aimed at making new sports stadium deals more transparent. How have sports stadiums become politicized in 45 seconds or less?
Well, they become politicized because pro sports is the one industry in this country that socializes the cost and privatizes the wealth. They're asking folks like me and you and our constituents to pay the bill for these super billion-dollar sports stadiums. So all I've said is in Illinois, we should do things a little differently. We should have a real conversation about what benefits are there for the people. You can't ask the people to write you a blank check or to erase your debt on property tax, especially if you're a $9.5, $10 billion company. It's not fair. You just heard us talk about insurance rates and utility bills and all these kitchen table issues that are hitting people. Stadiums are not top of that list.
Okay, that's where we'll have to leave it. Best of luck to all of you next week. State Representative Cam Buckner, State Senator Karina Villa, State Senator Sue Rezin, and State Representative Brad Stevens. Thanks everyone for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And that is our show for this Wednesday night. You can stream Chicago Tonight on our WTTW YouTube channel every evening and catch up on any programs you may have missed. And join us tomorrow night at 5:30 and 10. CTU President Stacey Davis Gates on her new additional role leading the Illinois Federation of Teachers. Now for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that supports inclusionary excellence throughout the legal profession.